Welcome to Rawsome Parents, the podcast where parenting gets real, raw, and awesome. Parenting is messy, magical, and transformational. So whether you're navigating new parenthood, single parenting, co-parenting, or rediscovering yourself after the kids have moved out, you are not alone. Here we share raw truths, heartfelt stories, and playful conversations with parents and experts, because suffering is optional, and together we can lead with love, heal what holds us back, and create lives full of fun and integrity for ourselves and our kids. So grab a coffee, hit subscribe, and join us on this wild ride. Let's get raw and awesome. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Rawsome Parents Podcast with me, Shaun Tucker, and I'm here with an awesome lady. If you haven't met Marie Ferguson, she is a remarkable force in the realms of feminine embodiment, youth empowerment, and creative expression. She has over 17 years of experience in education, specializing in the arts and holding a Master's of Education. She has a profound love for empowering women. Her journey is marked by resilience and empowerment, transcending personal challenges, including occupational burnout and multiple miscarriages, to drawing from ancient wisdom rooted in priestess lineages. She now guides others on the profound journey of reconnecting with their feminine essence. Wow. Marie, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Shaun, for having me. I'm so excited to just be having this beautiful conversation.
And well, thank you so much for opting in, because even in your bio, I can feel that the level of personal challenges. And what I believe, when someone has that life experience, they have the ability to guide people so much more profoundly because they've lived it. Miscarriages are not an easy thing to go through. We went through one a couple of years ago before we had our first child, and it's horrible, isn't it?
It's definitely something that, as a woman, as a mother, but also in partnership as parents, that you don't actually prepare for. And I feel like no one ever spoke about it when I was going through this experience until it was happening to me. And I had known friends that had experienced it, and it was a lot of deep sympathy to that situation, but it was you don't know until you go through it. And it was interesting now in retrospect how powerful that experience it was for me in shedding so many narratives, stories, expectations, learning to listen more deeply to my body, and to really, I suppose, question more deeply my values and the wisdom that was within me to be heard and felt, and to therefore then be actioned, whether it was forced upon me or not. And this piece around losing control, you have no control of when these moments and these situations and experiences happen, and it's the most powerful, sad, frustrating, rageful, numbing. And also I found in the end, in my last miscarriage I had not long ago, actually, it was really quite humbling in the end to reframe all of that experience and to look at the depth of my own capacity to hold myself alone, and only I could do it. And to go through that whole process, I had 4 miscarriages now, and that last one that I experienced, actually I found out on my birthday this year, was a whole
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah, but I feel like the beautiful thing is, in this final, I feel like it was a final one, who knows, but for me it felt like a final initiation into actually reframing that what we see as horrible, what we see as grief, what we see as sadness can actually be transmuted into a deep reverence into the power of woman, into the deep reverence into the wild nature and the breath and the sensual processes to shed death in a really humbling and not necessarily painful way.
Yes, I totally agree. And you've just said a lot, and I would love to unpack it with you, because the way that I see grief, and this is not through my lived experience, but learning from someone, right, and hearing what they had to say, because they spent a lot of time actually with dying people. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Ram Dass at all, but I was listening to him quite a lot in the recent, probably 6 months. And in his journey, he started out, really, he was a Harvard professor, got kicked out of Harvard. And then he sort of ended up feeling very lost because he'd made a name for himself. Then he found himself in India and found a guru, went on this journey of wow, this sort of spiritual discovery within himself. And I guess maybe I should say the reason why he got kicked out of university, or being a professor of Harvard, is one of the two professors, was the psychedelic research that they were conducting, because it literally blew his mind. And when he was working with people that were dying and dealing with grief, he literally found connection through their stories to oneness, universe, God. He would say God, right? And the whole teaching, I suppose, is really becoming more tender. The more tender you become, the more compassion you can hold. And I think that's such a beautiful little sentiment around reverence, and just almost being this powerful force, which, woman or man, right? We all have that feminine nature of ourselves. We all have the ability to be compassionate, to hold space, to not judge, to just be, once we've removed all of those kind of layers and masks that we hold for ourselves and who we think we are. And once we get to that point, there's just one of us. We're connecting from a soul to another soul, which is just the same thing. And that is such a beautiful, you've articulated it very, very well. So if anyone's listening and viewing right now, I'd actually encourage you to go back and hear what Marie said, because there's so much power in what she said. 4 times she's had this life trying to come through her, and she wasn't able to conceive at that time. It just wasn't going to happen, right? And the way that she's using it to transform is incredible. So really, my hat's off to you, Marie, for having the ability to share that and the courage to share that.
Thank you. And it's interesting, I see beautiful women who are pregnant or celebrating pregnancy. And there was a time where I was jealous, and I would go, why you and not me? And now there's this kind of just deep honor for just all life and all death in its whole existence. And I mean, there are women who have had over 20 miscarriages that I've met that just blow my mind. And I'm like, just the resilience of the human spirit, that the soul is tempered like steel, and that we become just something so much stronger than what we think we are, which I feel like this has been my journey in these lessons for myself. So, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And talking about children now, so you have one kid?
Yes. Yeah. I've got a daughter.
Beautiful blessing, right? And how old is your daughter?
Oh, she's 8. So she's
8.
a little redhead, little firecracker, so full of life. And I just love seeing her grow.
Yeah, I really love that. I'd love to ask a question going back to when you first became a parent, and maybe it was even before, with one of the miscarriages as well. What were some of the expectations that you had leaning into oh, this parenthood is going to be like this? What were some of the expectations that you had that maybe were destroyed.
Yeah. Being a teacher, I've been around, mainly teenagers, but kids and little kids and things like that. So I always had this joy for being with just children in general, and that it's going to bring so much fun and light and love, and that and I knew it was going to be hard, but your children just teach you so much about yourself as well. So
Yeah.
I really had to let go of my own expectations of how to handle my emotions, to notice what my husband was going through and my daughter. I mean, as a new mum, I did not expect, when they say blood, sweat, and tears, it's like all of that and more, it's just like, what is going on? And you lose control. And I think back now, it's like I was speaking about, like letting go of control. It's like your body just takes over, and not having control over sleep or when to feed. And I just had to surrender. And that was something that I didn't expect, of how deeply parenthood would allow the surrender process to shift through each moment, each day, each transition, even going from the little, tiny baby into growing into a toddler, and then the big emotions of dealing with tantrums. And, when my daughter was 4, that was when I had my first miscarriage, and she was observant enough to see friends with siblings. So at 4, even just dealing with my own grief and her grief was, I did not expect that to absorb so deeply within a 4-year-old. And it came out in massive tantrums when friends would come over and they're leaving. So this abandonment wound, like, that I wasn't aware of in this phase until I sat down, and I was doing a lot of inner work on myself at this time, and just really noticing her emotions, noticing the feeling state, allowing her to just scream and tantrum and let it out in a safe place. And I did not expect this level of holding for, 3, 4, 5-year-olds. And I can see, like, in the very, I suppose, conscious way that we choose to parent, and also noticing the world around me, that to even allow them to feel their emotions to their fullest can be so draining and so hard and challenging. There were times where I'd just cry with her and I'd have a tantrum with her. And for her to witness that and to see me cry then actually shifted a lot. And it was like we met each other as little emotional inner child beings together, crying together and just holding each other. And with the pieces around the abandonment, allowing myself to sit with her in her fullest emotions and to question, why is it? Where do you feel it in your body? Why is it that that when friends go? And what came from her at 4 years old was like, they get to go home to their brothers and sisters and I'm alone. And for her to articulate that at 4, and for me to have the space to hold, there was this massive penny drop that our children are so wired and so attuned to how we're feeling, to the emotions. And I was like, wow, she hasn't actually been able to process in her little mind and body grief, loss, her stories and expectations of what it was to be a sister. And that was a lot at that stage. And we're still dealing with things now, as she's learned to deal with grief and loss as well, and knowing and noticing my body as well, which has been really fascinating in the journey of motherhood, what they absorb in as well.
Yeah. I mean, they're little vessels, really, aren't they? And we are kind of the ones to fill it up, but we only have so much influence and impact on that too. Because I'm not sure exactly what the stat is, but it's in the 20%, is somewhere in the 20 20 to 30% is how much influence a parent now has over their child, right? There's a lot of external influence, and that's what they say. It takes a whole village to raise a child, right?
Yeah, gosh.
And it's not surprising, but those formative years are so, so important. And there's a quote, which I'm going to paraphrase, but the best thing I can do for you is to work on myself. And the best thing you can do for me is to work on yourself. But when the children are so ripe and so, I don't want to use the word fragile, when they're so empty in terms of the space that they can hold, and we're unconsciously filling them up, like that can have massive, massive impact on their life later on. So bringing that awareness, being able to handle your emotions with them, through you, like that is a huge sentiment to yourself as well.
Yeah.
As well as her ability to, feel safe in that space just to open them up.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really interesting that statistic or that piece that you brought in, because, back when we were growing up, the parents are the most influential teachers, and the fact that that's just decreasing because of all of the other sensory experiences and the environments around us, social media, technology. I see it even with my own daughter, and it's like, okay, we need to build those relationships again. And I'd probably coming back into that piece around, that bond and connection as parents. We always want to be the strong ones around them. And yes, we can, but it's also good for them to see that vulnerability, and for them to know that we're human too, and to talk to them, like feel the feelings. And then when we're calm and we're regulated, then we talk about it. So that's what I would probably encourage from that piece, and just encourage that time to bond with them and get to know them and what they like, and fill them up with their passions and find out what they're excited about. And when you as a parent, as a person, as a being know what you're passionate about, it just absorbs through them. And if you don't know, take time to find out. Like you said, when we fill up our cup, it just allows this beautiful ripple effect to your partners, to your family, to your children. And this is what intergenerational healing is about. And that sacred selfishness of knowing thyself and filling your cup so that you can give out tenfold is really, really important.
Yeah. And I'd love to go into this a little bit, because I think environment plays a huge role in all of it, right? Because if you're not feeling safe as the parent, right, your memory of how you were brought up and all of these maybe traumas or just memories or energies that are stuck in you, when you have a child, it's like they all come out, because it's like you're reliving that whole experience of being a child again, but now you're the adult. So it's like, how you handle it now. Back then, there was no way you could handle it. It was up to your parents to handle it for you. And that is based on how they handle themselves through that. So I think there's a huge shift I can see and I can feel in this space for people that are, doing a lot of the inner work. They're choosing how to raise their children now, rather than just let it happen or, do the best with what they can. I feel like we're a lot more empowered with convenience and technologies and comfort, that it's a blessing, but it's also a curse at the same time. So I'd love to know, how much do you think the environment and the support that you're providing for your children is not only helpful for you as a parent, but what can you see that having an impact for your daughter as well?
It's a big question. It makes me think back, back to when I was a child. Like, I'm half Filipino, so I grew up in multicultural expectations that girls should do this and be quiet, and the people pleaser in me and the perfectionist in me really kind of rose, trying to seek that attention. And I had the home, I had the safe space in regards to all the structural things. And when I think back to my mother, who grew up in the Philippines, who ran away from home at 10 to survive. And I now can think about the strength and courage it took for her to create the things that she thought was safe. It was really interesting because what I found in what I needed as safety was emotional, was the psychological, and there were these internal battles growing up, and physical also pieces as I was growing into my own person that I just really didn't want for my daughter. And so the home is one thing, but the internal safety within self has been my biggest piece. Because when you can feel at home in your own body, then the other parts of our environment get to just reflect that and ripple out.
Yeah.
And in the humanness, like owning that we can still do the inner work and be human and imperfect and have a messy kitchen and create all this massive impact in the world and balance all of the polarities of the things and know that you are safe within here. And then you just take each step, each breath, each moment, and work with the people around you, work with, your partners or your loved ones or your families around you, have that support system, allowing yourself that environment to bring people into your field that celebrate you. So when I think about environment, I always kind of think about what's fostering my internal environment, my inner landscape first. And then I think about what gets to ripple out and mirror back to me in nature, in my surroundings, in what I get to create. Like I just created with my husband and my other beautiful partner, a beautiful gallery. And the point about fostering creativity in it, more safe environments for community, like that's what I get to do now in a bigger scale, whether it's online and global summits and safe conversations, whether it's in spaces here. And the reason that I can create and co-create that with other people in collaboration is because of this. And so my daughter gets to witness that. She also gets to witness the chaos that comes with that, and also the beauty and what gets to be fostered, because we can have, and I am a culprit for this, tech time, because you're doing so much to create these spaces and environments so we can take that away. Sometimes you just have to be gentle with yourself and go, that's okay. But it's all in balance, and it's all in like finding that harmony. And sometimes when we talk about harmony, sometimes life is imbalanced and there's intense moments where things are just full on, and then it just gets to reharmonize later.
Yeah.
It's just noticing that in the environments, in the technology, in nature, in the spaces that you're in your home, and being gentle with yourself, but also having the discipline. And my husband's really good at this. It's very opposite to me. He'll bring that in, and I'm like, okay, this is where the masculine and the feminine get to work together. And it's like, come on, you also have to be this, in order for us to create this and these conversations and these dynamics in your environment get to then just nourish this environment in here.
Yeah, I think you've nailed it on the head, because when you treat yourself less as a psychological drama and more of a life, right? You can actually handle your environment so much easier. Because if you think about, as a life, we're made up of 5 elements, right? It's earth, it's fire, it's water, it's air, and it's space. If you lean into the more Ayurvedic understandings of the 5 elements. And space is infinite, but it only makes up 1% of a human. And that's the internal space that you can create within yourself, so that whatever's happening amidst the chaos, amidst the craziness, lean into that, create that space within yourself so that you can manage how you respond to the life chaos that's outside of you. And that becomes the ripple effect, which is, I think, the space leadership is really heading now. But leadership at a parent level is the same. It's the same at like a corporate level. I see it as anyway. It all comes back to self-leadership, how you handle and manage yourself. And it's interesting that we've moved away, from this kind of, we're very blessed here in Australia, and still there's a lot of people that still suffer here, of course. But from a physical safety point of view, I think there's a lot of people still suffering, but there's many people that have that blessing that they don't have to take care of that, like it's handled. And so it becomes more of a psychological or mental battle of safety. And that comes from us inside of ourselves. So I love that so much, because it's then rippled to your children. You can see that. You can see it so evidently.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So beautifully said. And I think even like, when we notice this impacting our children, just to continue to just talk to them about, what is going on in the world, our inner world, our family world, also the external world, because those inner battles we see reflected in relationships, in the world, in big events. I see it because we just created an art gallery. I see it through art now as well. And there was this beautiful mother and artist who was talking, when you were talking about those inner battles, and maybe also think about what's happening globally. And I don't normally like pay attention to those bigger issues, and I'm aware, but I'm just focused a lot inner. But now it's like, when you start connecting with people and hearing their stories, like this one artist, she had a parent who was Ukrainian and a parent that was Russian. And so with what's been going on in the world, this piece around the battles, and she's like, we should be brothers and sisters coming together instead of this. And so a lot of her art to express how she was feeling, that her son gets to see, that people get to see, really, I suppose, is a piece of this deeper expression that gets to be noticed, witnessed, and whether it's art, whether it's your voice, whether it's being a stay-at-home parent, whether it's leading a company of corporate people, like, we are a work of art. We are an expression of the divine. And imagine if, like, every word we said, every breath we took, every movement we made was part of this beautiful tapestry, this beautiful piece that is already a masterpiece in all of its intricacies, that we just get to dance through life, paint through life, just be. And this is what children have taught me.
Yes.
And this is the piece around when you notice them deeply present, whether it's with art or in nature or with food, even technology. Ask them, what are they creating? What are they doing? What characters have they made? What is it they like about that? And then you have your boundaries and your things in place where, if it's the tech world is a big thing, while creating this artistry side of things and navigating the balancing of parenthood and tech time and holiday time, and having a single child that is yearning for connection. It's like being interested in that, but having the boundaries of going, right, okay, you need to do this, take this away now, and you're going to do this. And sometimes parenting can be so beautiful and present, but it's also putting boundaries in, and also allowing the dragon side of us to be noticed in firm ways, because our kids also need that discipline at times. And it's not to be seen as punishment, but it's interesting also in the teaching one, I'm very conscious, but I also notice that when I'm strict with myself and there's that discipline side of things, and this is the polarity, we can't all be airy fairy love. We're here to also learn our inner strength, how to say no, and how to put boundaries in place. And if we don't teach that in a authoritative but safe and firm way, so our kids can then learn to say no to other things and know what their boundaries are, then we're doing them a disservice. And I find that I did myself a disservice by not allowing that part of me to come out. I know we diverged, but this is what I do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought that kind of stemmed from that when we talk about these inner battles and we talk about the polarities of self and parenthood, that we've got to have that in our toolkit because that's also part of who we are.
Totally. A life needs to have rules, right? Otherwise it will die pretty soon after. It's not able to soak in the water, right? If it's not taking care of itself, like these are all physical boundaries that we have. But when we open up to an infinite space, that's, the amount of love that you have for your child or the amount of love you have for yourself and the world, that can be limitless. It's also based on conditions, right? Because if there are no conditions, then it's like what we've done to the earth now as human beings. It's devastating. Life, the number of species on the planet is decreased immensely. It's like, yeah, there are conditions for it, but it's also a surrender. It's this kind of like falling in love. So I just want to honor you for saying that too, because there are rules, there are boundaries. It's knowing where they are. It's allowing your children to absorb them, because beliefs and values, they're also boundaries, right? They're also limitations. But if we lean into becoming limitless beings within a physical boundary, which is what we are, then I think we're doing something really powerful and really right as parents.
Well said.
So I actually, before we finish up, I really want to ask this question, and it's around framing. So imagine today was your last day on earth, and your beautiful daughter was going to go live her life from today onwards without you. So I just want you to lean into that for 1 second. And I just want you to just think about for a moment and just speak your heart. What were the 3 lessons that you left behind for your daughter in that space?
Oh, to continue to love fiercely, the resilience and strength that she has is unbound, and to just be in her passion and follow her heart, and the world is her oyster.
I love that. Wow. Really leaning into the boundless nature of the human spirit so much.
She's wild. She's had many lives before, and just her spirit is just so full of life, and I can't wait. Like, I can't wait to see her grow. I mean, I can wait. Just enjoying each moment. She's 8 now, and I see these photos of when she was a baby, and I know you've got a little baby, and flies by. But just enjoy them as they are, how they are as children, because that's a gift to be a child and to keep that innocence and purity, and allow us as adults to be sparked by that innocence and purity within ourselves, because that's God, and that is pure life force energy, and we need more of that. It's here. We just need to remind ourselves to unveil the things and allow that pure essence that our children remind us of to just exude from ourselves. And the world is already a beautiful place, even in the polarity of its chaos and pieces, but the beauty is there, and let's all lean into that and bring more of that online for the future, because it's going to just be fabulously, unimaginably amazing for them, which I'm excited to be co-creating and laying foundations for.
Yeah, it's a very, very ripe time for life, I think, as a human being in this space that we're in, especially where we're giving them, we have the tools now to transform ourselves, which then becomes a beacon of transformation for everyone else around us. So like what you said is beautiful. Tap into the tapestry of life and let that life force just really exude from you, because that becomes just a mirror for someone to look at and realize that they have the possibility within them as well. So, wow, Thank you so much, Marie, for being here and sharing this conversation with me. I'd love for you to share just quickly with the audience who wants to reach out and connect with you and see what you're up to. What's the best way to do that?
There's a couple of ways. You can find me on Facebook as Marie Ferguson. My name is there. It's probably the best way. Instagram at Marie_Ann, ANN_Ferguson. And I do a lot of beautiful work with my two businesses, Awaken Academy. So Awaken is the old Latin term, which means to awaken. And the AE symbol that we've popped in there is the ancient symbol for one, to come back into oneness. And so I love that it's curious, it's spelt weird. People are like, how do you say that? Awaken and the N is silent, because we've got to have more curiosity in the world. And Beautiful Creative Hearts Co., which is the beautiful art gallery I was talking about, Creativity Hub. And go check it out, guys, because if you're local or if you're somewhere else in the world, there may be more pop-up galleries that can travel around, and let's see how we can help you guys as well. So check those out and say hi.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Marie. Thank you all for tuning in. And if you want Marie to come on the show again, please let us know in the comments, and we'll make it happen. Thank you for sharing your wisdom today, Marie. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thanks for tuning in to Rawsome Parents, where we keep it raw, real, and awesome. If you loved this episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. Your support helps us reach more parents just like you. And hey, remember, parenting is a wild ride, but you're never in it alone. If you need more support or just want to connect, find me on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram at the Shaun Tucker. Until next time, stay raw, stay awesome, and keep leading with love. See you soon.